What is up, guys, and welcome back to episode number 73 now of the Leeds United career mode. And in today's episode, 3 more games for you, 2 of them in the Premier League and obviously 1 in the Champions League as we look to wrap up our Champions League group stage. Last episode, we beat Anderlecht to continue our good run of form in the Champions League, and it means that now we are qualified and all we've got to do is battle to try and get ourselves the first place in our group. So we're battling here with Zenit later on in the episode, and then next episode we travel to Atletico Madrid when we do in fact try and win the group. So depending on the result later on against Zenit in the episode, we could go to that one against Atletico Madrid, only needing a draw to be crowned as group champions. So we could, I'll pretty much wrap it up in this episode, and then obviously next episode we go there. And depending on the result that they have against Anderlecht will mean that we only need a draw. If they lose to Anderlecht, though, and we win later on in the episode, we won't have to worry about the result over in Spain as long as we obviously beat Zenit later on. So there is that to come. But before that, we have 2 tough games in the form of Crystal Palace first. And then I can't quite remember who it is coming up next. I think it's actually Arsenal in the game after this one. But that one game against Arsenal is obviously not coming just yet. That'll be coming up in just a second here. You can see we're taking on Palace here at home. Palace have been a side in the past who have been a decent side against us. They've caused us some problems. The first season we got into the Premier League, they were a very, very tough team to play against. Last season, not so much, as last season we had an extremely good season, only losing 1 game all season long. And that was to, if I remember correctly, who was actually to? Was it against Newcastle? Yeah, it was Newcastle actually beat us in the Premier League. So, we've done quite well last year. We only lost to 1 team, whereas the first year we came up in the Premier League, Palace were an absolute force. So, into 7 minutes here into the game, and Anwar El Ghazi got us off to the perfect start with an absolutely lovely goal to get us into the lead here, 1-0 up inside the first 10 minutes of the game. And who else but Anwar El Ghazi? It just had to be him. He's been playing out of his mind recently, and like I said to you guys, he has been the greatest signing I think I've ever done in a career mode. But not only that, he has been the greatest signing that I've ever seen in a career mode. I've been a bit, overhyped in there. He's not the greatest, signing anybody's ever made, but for me, he's been my favourite and the best signing in my opinion that I've ever made on a career mode. So gets us off to the perfect start there, does Anwar El Ghazi. Then 27 minutes into the game, his partner Emre Mor almost managing to strike one home, but it was straight at the goalkeeper in the end. Very poor in the end from our young man. Comes out to the left-hand side in the second half now as Grimaldo gives it to Januzaj. Januzaj overlapping the left back, which is something you don't hear very often. And Anwar really should have made it 2-0 and had a second goal for himself. I was very disappointed to not see that in the back of the net. However, he's not known for his heading ability, so I will let him off. As you can see, 70th minute into the game now, Joel Green, who is actually 91 rated now going into this episode, guys. He actually hit 91 overall. Makes it 2-0 with a low-driven shot, and our 91 rated player get us up to a 2-goal advantage. That's mental, guys. If you remember, all those episodes ago, I think it was episode 11, I actually said that he was going to be a star. I said this boy's going to be a star. That was the title of the episode almost, 62 episodes ago? No, that's mental. And already, he is proving to be a star. He is 91 overall, which is just incredible. Back then, he was only, 70 or something crazy like that. And now he's grown to a 91 rated player, which is just absolutely mental. He's almost worth like 100 million, which is crazy. But 78 minutes into the game, and Palace started getting themselves on the board in terms of chances. The first one here coming as I didn't deal with the cross, as it came to an absolute rifle of a strike. I don't even know who it was. I think it was Martin Kelly in the end who actually took the strike on. And we were so lucky to not concede from that one, as it was poor defending from me. But there was chance for Palace to actually pull one back in the game. Wilfred Zaha came off the bench. Lovely little piece of skill to get past the first tackle, and then I gave him way too much time to pick his spot, and he fired that one into the top corner to make it 2-1 there. And in the end, it ended up being only a consolation for Crystal Palace, as I was actually looking at this thinking that we could have possibly lose, but I just basically saw the game out and made sure I kept hold of the ball for the last few minutes of the game to make sure we got the 3 points and a 2-1 victory here. But it was a very, very good performance later on from Palace. They didn't really have too much in the first half or in the opening parts of the second, but then in the dying minutes of the second half, or the last 10, they got themselves into the game and created chances to really cause us an issue here. But thankfully, we came away with a 2-1 victory. Green and El Ghazi with the goals, and it was a very, very good performance from the rest of the lads up until that last 10-minute stage when we were obviously on the back foot trying to defend against a very, very resilient Palace side. In the end, they gave it a good go but couldn't quite manage it. As you can see by match facts, very, very close game, but we just about edged it. And Southampton there beating Middlesbrough by 2-0 in another game in the Premier League. So At the moment, guys, our league form is absolutely phenomenal, and so is the Champions League. And as I've said to you guys in the past, I'm not bothered about the EFL Cup or the FA Cup. We've won both of those already in the series. I don't care for them now. So I sim the games, and any games that we play in there, even if we lose them, I'm just not bothered about. So it's not really one of the things I'm bothered. I'm only bothered with the league games and, of course, the Champions League games, as we are looking to try and get as far as we possibly can in the Champions League, because that's going to get end goal. Obviously, we've won everything now. We've won the Premier League, we've won the League Cup, and we've won the FA Cup. The only thing left is in fact the Champions League, but that may not happen in this first season. We'll just have to wait and see, because you know Legendary is a type of difficulty that one game I can play extremely well and then another game get absolutely smashed. So you know, when we come up against the likes of Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, all these big name teams, it's going to be very difficult playing against them and trying to create chances against a team of that quality. But at the minute, it seems as though the higher rated teams in the Premier League, in terms of what they are currently in real life, the top 4 real life teams, are not doing so well for themselves. So at the moment in the Premier League, it seems to have all swapped around and stuff. So you know, we take on Arsenal here, and I have to say, this team that Arsenal named, I actually didn't show you. I accidentally skipped instead of showing you, and I tell myself to not do it. You can see we're the best defensive team, only conceding 4 all season long so far. And this Arsenal team was actually a lot weaker than I was expecting it to be. Wenger's men wasn't anywhere near as good as I was expecting it to be. However, they gave me an extremely tough game. They came into this with a game plan to try and defend and make sure that they could try and catch me on the counter. But when I come up against this, I simply said it's counter-attacking myself and just make sure that I don't get counter-attacked. But in the end, it took until 80 minutes before a chance came in, and it fell at the head of Emre Moore, the smallest player on the pitch, pretty much, to try and get ourselves a goal. But we're unfortunately not able to do so. But Anwar trying to change it around, and for some reason, they didn't even name Donnarumma in goal. 87 rated, and they're not using him. It's just mental. They've got somebody else in there. It's one of the their youth academy players. I don't know, he might be quite a good goalkeeper, but is he Donnarumma standard? Probably not. Anwar takes a strike on, was fouled as he did it, and it would have actually counted as a goal. But in the end, we get a free kick for ourselves with Anwar. He's actually going to take it. I did think about giving it to Ronaldo, but in the end, I decided to absolutely pile drive this one goal was and just see what we could do. And Anwar takes the strike on, and it's well saved at the near post by Bertord, obviously the youth academy goalkeeper. And then we had one more chance from the corner, but the cross was very, very poor in the end, straight into the hands of the Arsenal goalkeeper, meaning that we drew the game by a 0-0. So we only picked up a point from that one. You know, it's not disappointing. We haven't lost it at least, but you can see it was a very, very boring game. You're going to see the match facts coming up in a second here, and then it was just such a boring game to play. I mean, Arsenal came with a game plan, they executed their game plan, and in the end, they got a point out of it. And it's a very good point for them, you know, because coming to Ellen Road and getting a point out of it is something that not many teams do nowadays here on this career mode. You know, we've been absolutely dominant both home and away in the Premier League. So to come here and get a draw, Arsenal did extremely well for themselves there to get that draw. But, you know, I'm a bit disappointed. I'm going to see it as 2 points dropped. I mean, our performance didn't warrant a win in terms of that one. I don't think we played well enough to win the game. But we also, you know, didn't deserve to draw the game because Arsenal didn't really test me in terms of going forward. So I felt as though it was 2 points dropped rather than a point gain there. But nevertheless, you know, we're still doing pretty well for ourselves in the Premier League and still doing quite well in terms of our wins percentage to draws. Because obviously when we first came up to the Premier League, I was drawing a lot of games. I was getting frustrated because I couldn't find the breakthroughs in certain games that I drew 0-0 or 1-1. And I just needed that one more goal. But thankfully this season we're not having that case. And last season we didn't have it actually either. So we're winning a lot more games than we are drawing, which is a testament to this team, really, because all the players here at Ellen Road right now are just absolutely quality. You know, they've got the likes of Oxford. There's a number of players who can't even get in the side. You know, what is it? Hernandez there, who actually plays today in this game against Zenit. I tried to give him as much game time as I can, because at the end of the day, he's still very, very young, and he actually can't get in the side. We've got Eric Bailly, Martins Indy, and Vertonghen, who actually are our I guess our 3 best centre-backs, I would call them. But Hernandez is looking in there and trying to get a few game time so I can keep on growing the centre-back. You can see here, like I mentioned, we only need to pick up a victory here and Zenit, and then depending on results between Anderlecht and Atletico Madrid, we would be crowned as champions of the group. But I can tell you guys, before going into this game, that Atletico Madrid did not, in fact, slip up over to Anderlecht. So it meant that they won that game. So anything less than a victory here, and it means that Atletico Madrid will go back on possibly level terms. I think they're 2 points behind us right now in the group, and then that win takes them 3 ahead. But if we get a draw here, it all comes down to goal difference. So we needed a win. You can see there, going into this game, it was actually 8 points for Atletico Madrid. So yeah, they were 2 points behind us. So a victory in Anderlecht put them on 11, and it meant that we were on 10. So we had to make sure that we tried to at least pick up a draw from this one. I couldn't afford a defeat, meaning that I would have to go to Atletico Madrid and need a victory over in Spain to take my crown as the group stage winners. So I can tell you guys that Atletico Madrid did in fact beat Anderlecht, meaning that we had to try our best here against Zenit. That was a team we named Leno Pereira, pretty much the strongest, or one of the strongest possible lineups I can even name. You guys know I'm trying to stop going away from calling it a backup team because it's basically a rotation squad because we have such good quality here at Leeds and anybody can come into the team and do exceptionally well for us. You can see 45th minute, the stroke of half time was when we managed to get the first chance in this one. Joel Green down the right hand side, 91 overall of course, whips in a ball and Roy Remy gets his head to it to make it 1-0 there on the stroke of half time. And I was thinking to myself, every time you get into the position to have an effort on the stroke of half-time, just shoot from anywhere, because the chances are EA love scoring goals on the stroke of half-time, so it could end up in the back of the net. And thankfully there, like Remy gets us the opening goal in this game. And I have to say as well, Zenit didn't really test me as much as I was expecting. They had a couple of, half opportunities, but nothing really worthy of showing you guys. As you can see, 57 minutes in, Emery Moore now cuts inside, lovely little scoop, I guess, what is it called, a scoop turn, as like Remy makes it 2, but it actually wasn't credited for like Remy. It was actually going wide the strike until it takes a deflection. I didn't realise at the time, but you can see here, the strike was going wide, it took a deflection off the defender, and the keeper did not read the deflection. Well, of course, he couldn't read the deflection, and it ends up in the back of the net. So it would have been Remy's second goal, but instead it's credited to Smolonikov for an own goal instead. So we're 2-0 up in the game and absolutely cruising, meaning that at this rate we go into that game against against Aston Villa, against Atletico Madrid, sorry, and in a position in which we would only need a draw over in Spain to guarantee our champion status as the group stage winners. But it got even better for ourselves as Remy met a cross in the 84th minute. The keeper makes an absolute howley, sort of came for it, didn't do it in the end, and Remy meets it before the goalkeeper to make it 3 for us and just really solidify our 3 points here on the road. So very good win here against Zenit St. Petersburg, and like I said, that means now we only need a draw over in Spain to make sure that we get ourselves the group stage winners crown. But I don't want to go over to Spain and try and play out for the draw, because you remember what happened last time when we were in the Europa League. We tried to do that against Borussia Mönchengladbach. It didn't work, and I absolutely got made to look like a fool because we got destroyed in the game that we played against them. So I won't be going over to Spain and looking to get a draw. I'll be going over there and looking to just try and play and see if I can get a victory over there. And if we can't, then we'll just have to wait and see what happens in that game. But this means now, like I said, we only need a draw over there, and fingers crossed we'll be able to get that. And at this stage right now, I do want to try and win. As you can see, Atletico Madrid winning 5-0 against Anderlecht there at home. So right on the back of that, it's going to be tough in Spain. But other than that, we are coming towards the end of this episode of Green Mode. If you have enjoyed, smash the like button. And as always, I've been Danny, and I'm out. Adios.